Okay, thanks Hannah for giving us this time to talk about modernizing your vector control strategy with GIS. I'm David Toppin, Industry Manager here at Esri, and joining me later will be Jared Schultz. He's our Health and Human Services Technical Specialist that will be providing the technical demonstration. I'd like to cover the agenda here where we're going to kind of introduce the Esri vector control ecosystem, how we are approaching vector control here at Esri. Talk a little bit about the American Mosquito Control Association that we have here in the United States of America and how they influence our control strategies. Very specifically talk about the integrated mosquito management using GIS, and also provide some international examples. And then, like I said, we'll turn it over to Jared to do a demonstration of Esri's vector-borne disease surveillance and control solution. And then, of course, we'll open up for questions at the end. So the vector control solutions that we have at Esri are multiple different approaches. Of course, we're going to be showing the Esri offering, vector-borne disease surveillance and control solution. That is an end-to-end solution where you engage with the ArcGIS platform plus services to help you implement every step of that solution. We also have recently published this past summer is ArcGIS for Public Works. We have a configuration of the ArcGIS platform that helps you manage mosquito populations. And this really is for those do-it-yourself shops that have a strong GIS group and you're interested in augmenting your vector control solution. And so there's some pre-configurations. And of course we do have partner solutions that get very specific, say such as the hardware controllers for the sprayers and such that extend the ArcGIS platform. The American Mosquito Control Association, I'm proud to say, is now a customer of Esri. We are working with them very specifically on helping them promote the educational component of vector management. We all know that a component to a key strategy is to engage the public and help educate them so they know how to assist a public works organization in doing their fair share with combating mosquitoes, and much of that comes with just public awareness on standing water and various control measures. One of the tenets of the American Mosquito Control Association in their best management practices, they have these 9 tenets that really contribute to a full integrated mosquito management program. These 9 tenets are shown here, starting off with surveillance, and really this is kind of the backbone of the IMM, and this is where this really helps you identify those problem species and various population trends, and that helps you really understand and evaluate the different control methods that would be applied. Step 2, or tenet number 2, the mapping, that's pretty self-explanatory, putting a visual representation of these that helps you monitor those major sources of the larvae and adult mosquitoes, also mapping out which different control measures have been implemented. It all comes down to, say, that visual presentation in the mapping. Number 3, set action thresholds. This really is not specific to GIS, but this is where you would be initiating those control measures and understanding which thresholds that you're going to implement your control measures. That there's various values, let's say, of these thresholds that would trigger a specific control measure that you've kind of been mapping out in the previous step. Number 4, physical control or source reduction. This really is where we get into simply just proper water management, the eradication of standing water, and just understanding, the best, as we say in the States, sometimes the best defense is a good offense. That's eradicating the actual sources for the breeding of mosquitoes really helps with your overall vector control. Number 5, the biological control. You don't always have to apply chemicals. There are ways that GIS can be used to understand the introduction of native non-invasive species of fish that can actually eat the mosquito larvae before they even hatch. And again, a very effective all-around environmental control aspect can be used in that biological control component. Number 6, public health mosquiticides. That really gets us definitely into the chemical application, and actually some of our partner solutions are associated with chemical manufacturers, so they understand which chemicals can be introduced into this entire vector control system. Really, number 7 is where we get into the pure power of GIS in monitoring for the efficacy or the resistance. There again, I like to say this is kind of like our optometry test, where you go into the eye doctor and they say better 1 or better 2, and they change the lens, and better 3 or better 4. The GIS can really be used to understand how effective your programs are. You will basically be able to monitor the data of the mosquitoes before the applications, understand the results after the applications, and you just repeat this process as you fine-tune your integrated mosquito management program. Number 8, when we talk about education and community outreach, that's what we're doing with the AMCA. And really, one of the topics that Jared's going to show you are the use of story maps. This is a really effective tool to put the information out onto the web such that the community can understand what you are doing to help eradicate mosquitoes and vector-borne disease. And then step 9, record keeping, of course, that is the very nature of GIS, storing the information of all your efforts in the GIS, but also the integration capabilities into other computer systems. So if we were to look at Esri's approach to vector management, of course it really is a two-pronged approach. There's the approach from the public works departments that have to basically do vector management every single season, regardless of the disease, and of course when there is an illness we have an offshoot process that is the topic of other webinars that are out there. So really when we look at the public works perspective, it's all about the mechanics, it's all about the vector control, and you start off with strategic planning. You would do this by identifying district boundaries. You would map out these source reduction targets, specific areas of spraying. Of course, that would probably be directly related to these breeding habitats that would be the targets of spraying activities. And in this particular stage, your public outreach is that educational component, like we were talking about, educating the public on standing water and how they can report that and help eradicate that. When we actually go into the tactical execution phase, there's usually that hatch. Mother Nature makes sure that mosquitoes are hatched every single year, and you may or may not have the bite, which is really that event that you know the mosquito season has started. You start to have public reports of that first bite. In this tactical execution phase, we're looking at using the GIS to help us optimize our fogging, routing the trucks just for maximum efficiency and fuel savings, but also you can implement these no spray zones where even to this day we have interfaces that would turn on the foggers on and off automatically based on these exclusion polygons that can help feed the sprayers. During the tactical execution, you also more than likely have the sentinel chicken locations mapped out that you go and test them for early identification of disease, and of course also map out where you're doing mosquito counts so you understand these various bite rates. some of the GIS tools that can be used then, of course, is the heat mapping. You start clustering the bite reports so you know where you're having some of the most significant problems. And really, the public outreach in this phase then is communicating to the public your various operational activities, like showing where you're spraying and the like. Once we get into the analysis portion, typically the season is over with. Many of you that are following the science, it's following a certain particular temperature. In their states, we usually monitor 50 degrees Fahrenheit is kind of the start and stop of the season when the mosquitoes are actually hatching, and of course when finally the season ends and they die off. And so in this analysis phase, you would want to review your season's kind of the budget to actuals. You had a strategic plan, you executed against that plan, and you start to take a look at really the results of how well you did. And of course with the GIS, you look at the efficacy of year-to-year results. You can always sit there and monitor and finely tune your program. And ultimately too, you're trying to understand and assess your environmental impact. We all have environmental stewardship programs that would go hand in hand with our integrated mosquito management, so that yes, we're protecting the life of our citizenry, but we're also trying to protect the environment as well. And here the public outreach, of course, then would be showing operations dashboard, various charts of our key performance indicators at how well we did, how well we applied the budget, amount of chemicals applied, those sorts of things. And again, we kind of mentioned if there was indeed an illness, we really branch away from the public works cycle and go into a whole new workflow that helps address the public health response to a disease, and again that's been covered in earlier webinars. And so with that, that really kind of concludes the Esri approach, our two-pronged approach to integrated mosquito management, that we have the continuous public works cycle that happens season after season after season, and then if there is indeed an illness, we have the public health response. And many of us know, of course, here in the States, Zika has been one of the main concerns, but that's not the only illness that the public works strategy applies to. It applies to multiple diseases and multiple areas around the world. So if we were to look at the world, the international, of course, here's a distribution of the Zika virus as advertised here by the World Health Organization, and they're using GIS to help communicate and analyze where they've had these Zika outbreaks, and they're using the ArcGIS platform to communicate this in a story map. But it's not just the international flavors there, and there was this emphasis in Brazil, of course, with the Olympics that was more detailed mapping of Zika in the South Americas, again with a focus because of the Summer Olympics. There's real concern about the spread of Zika, but there again, this methodology doesn't apply just to Zika. In the South Americas, there are also, here's an example of them mapping the chikungunya and basically the transmission there, say in the South Americas, and again, and it's all sorts of different diseases this methodology applies to. Here's an example of dengue cases in Sri Lanka, where GIS is using, they're using that to identify dengue cases and show where they're most prevalent. And then of course they would implement integrated management strategy with GIS to help alleviate dengue. And then, of course, malaria has been one of those that has been around for a very long time, that we're usually most associate mosquito vector-borne diseases, with mosquitoes and malaria. And here's a map showing worldwide distribution of some of the malaria cases. So with that, I'd actually like to turn this over to Jared, where he will go into a demonstration of our vector-borne disease surveillance and control solution. Jared, take it away.
Thanks, David, for all that very useful information. In the United States and abroad, many different agencies have varied responsibilities to help protect the health of residents and communities. Agencies tasked with vector control and integrated mosquito management responsibilities, in particular, have to address a lot of different factors to run efficiently. Whether these responsibilities fall to public works, public health, or in standalone vector control districts, the challenges in coordinating and integrating an entire operation and adhering to the best practices and workflows touched upon by David is significant. Agencies need to move swiftly to curb the spread of vectors and diseases in a collaborative manner. A location strategy, enabled through the application of the ArcGIS platform, enables these organizations to discover, use, make, and share maps with a suite of tools designed to collect and manage data, using geography as the key while facilitating constituent engagement, decision support, field mobility, and analytics. To demonstrate these capabilities, I'm going to walk through a typical workflow that starts from taking public requests all the way through visualizing the results of completed field activities and providing educational outreach. Each one of the applications I will be showing are part of Esri's existing offering, which is configurable to an organization's needs. I will also briefly demonstrate where you can find Esri's publicly available solutions templates that offer similar configurations available for download and implementation by your organization's own internal staff. All right, so on screen what you're seeing is a typical ArcGIS portal. This is an ArcGIS online portal where a public works organization could stand up a website and make applications available to the public or for internal staff, which I'm going to get into a little bit more. Any application that the public needs to access in order to submit requests or issues can be available right here on this page. They can also be stood up in such a way that they can be embedded into other organizational web pages or shared out on social media to help ensure that the public can easily contact your organization and submit critical issues. First, I want to start with the ability to submit an issue from the public, related to an animal or insect issue. Maybe there's standing water, insect bites, or a particular house or neighborhood wants to request to have a spray done or some sampling taken in their area. Your organization can put tools up that make this very simple and allow people to submit these issues very conveniently. This particular application allows you to proceed anonymously as a guest without entering a username and password, or use existing credentials of ArcGIS Online. So say people in your call center could take requests over phone or email, traditional methods, and enter them in. You can also use your social media credentials. I'm going to log in as the public here and a guest. So as soon as I log into the site, I see all the different information that's been reported. I can go ahead and zoom into my neighborhood and click on any existing issues to see what's going on, and maybe vote on those issues to make sure that this organization knows that it's very important and it needs to be addressed without having to duplicate the issue. I can also go in and submit a report on my own directly through the browser. And you see I have a lot of different options here, and this is very powerful. But what makes the ArcGIS platform even more powerful is the ability to submit this information directly in from your mobile device. So now you can see all the same the forms and questions that were on screen before, now available on somebody's mobile device. These applications are configured in such a way that you develop them once time through simple configurations, and they're available across device and platform. So here I'm going to go ahead and submit a report. I'm going to go ahead and hit my drop-down menu here and select a mosquito issue. I'd already entered some other text in here, details about it. Am I the property owner? Yes. And you can cycle through, is property protected by a gate? Is there a dog? Enter your name and other contact information. I can even take pictures of the information directly in the field to inform this organization of where they need to be looking or what it is that they need to be doing. So I'm going to go ahead and take a picture of the area here where I think we have the problem with some standing water where these mosquitoes are coming from. And then Now, since I'm using GIS technology on a cellular device, a mobile device, it instantly captures my location, and I can go ahead and report this issue. And this is very powerful because you're capturing the location of the issue while you're in the field, while you're walking down the street as a concerned community member, and instantly reporting that information back to the responsible organization. So now let's go ahead and assume the role of a worker back in the office here. They log into that portal. While what you saw before was accessing that portal as the public, now I'm inside of this particular ArcGIS portal. It's an ArcGIS Online in this instance, and I see a bunch of different groups that have been assigned to me. On this particular day, I'm working in the Public Information Department and routing requests that are coming in from the public to the appropriate department. So here, I go ahead and click on the public information group, which is based on my identity. If I was a worker in another group in the organization, I may only have the infectious disease group, or I may only have environmental health or code enforcement. The nice thing about this platform is it's based on identity, and people only see the information that they're required to see to get their jobs done. So let's go ahead here and click on the Vector Control Problem Manager. And what this does is allow me to see all these requests that were submitted in by the public in real time so that I can route them to the appropriate department and division. All right, let's see what's going on here. I can see a number of different issues here that were reported in, sorted, based on the date. And I see this top issue that was just submitted in. So let's go ahead and click on this. And I can see the images that were reported in and all the info. I'm going to go ahead and edit this. So I've got information, mosquito, family getting bit, am I the property owner? I've got everything I need. I could set this to display back to the public so they can track the status or not. Let's see here, phone number, email. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and change the status of this to in progress. I could follow back with this individual user if I needed more information to resolve it, but I think that I have what I need. So I'm going to go ahead and mark it as in progress and assign it to the vector control department and click save. So as soon as I do this, the vector control supervisor that is tasking field workers to go out in the field and do site sampling and treatment will instantly see this information on the applications that they're used to using. So here, I'm opening up the treatment planning and management application. And this has got a lot of operational information that I've got overlaid sites, past samples and treatments and exclusion zones and related information. But I know as part of my job, I monitor this application and I see new requests that have come in. Here I see 2 in-progress vector control requests coming in from customers. I can go ahead and click on these requests and see what's going on. So standing water, water in the roadside area in front of a house, families concerned about mosquitoes. Okay, we've got all that information there. And then I see another request that's in the same neighborhood, mosquitoes. Family getting bit by a lot of mosquitoes. Oh, okay. And I also see an attachment here. And let's go ahead and take a look at that. Oh, it looks like some image of some standing water. So I'll make sure we get a sample when we're out there and see what's going on. Well, this is nice. I have this information. I see that there's some past sites in the area, but I also notice there's an exclusion zone here. I look at this exclusion zone and see a private neighborhood, nearly 3/4 of a mile away where they're doing some organic farming. They've requested not to be sprayed, and that's good. That helps me plan my operation accordingly. You can overlay all sorts of different information in a map like this. You can look at it with aerial imagery, overlay information on existing maybe source water, standing water areas like tires and dumps, or look dense at populated areas, medical infrastructure, whatever it is that you need in order to effectively do your job. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and create a treatment zone around this area to kind of guide the field worker's opportunity, the work that I want the field worker to do. So I'm going to go ahead here and do roads around this neighborhood to kind of get out in front of this with a quick adult deciding and take some samples. So the treatment type, I want to do an adult deciding in this area. Treatment method, we're going to go ahead and do truck-mounted spraying. And complete by date, I'll just give this a couple days in order to get this completed here. And then let's put a description and some notes in here. We'll go ahead and leave these blank now because we got all the information. We're going to be recording a lot of details in other spots too. So let's go ahead and close. So now I've got this treatment area that field workers will be able to use to guide their operations. Well, I'm going to go ahead and create an assigned site for a user out there, because the site is kind of the basis of all the field data collection activities that we're going to have going on. The site name, you can use all sorts of different things, whatever works for your organization. I'm just going to use a date style, 11/04/16/001 for a first site. A site type will do a treatment and sampling, and site status is active. Not all your sites are always going to be active. They can be inactive in the off season or after you resolve issues, so we can use this filter for a lot of different things. Site source was an ad hoc request. I could record address. Since I'm using GIS, this is already tied to location, and we're good. So let's go ahead and close this. So now I've got a planned treatment area and a site so that I can go ahead and assign my workers appropriately. So now I'm going to go in here to Workforce. And Workforce allows me to assign individual tasks to workers here. If I go ahead here, I instantly see that I've got a new site that needs to be assigned. And since I entered all the other information on the customer request, and I've already explored the treatment zones and created the, proposed treatment zone, and I got the exclusion areas that I looked at, I know what I need to do. I can instantly see that I have a worker here in the vicinity, which is Mr. Schultz. So I'm going to go ahead and assign this to him. Let's go here to Site. The details of the site, I'm going to go ahead and create an assignment. Click on assignment type. We're going to do some surveillance and treatment. I'm going to assign to Jared Schultz because he's the worker that's very close there. I'm going to give it a medium level priority and go ahead and give a few dates to get this cleaned. I'm not going to enter in a time there, but I'm going to go ahead too and also enter in a date or an ID that I can use to kind of link all this information back together. 11/04/16/001. And I could put more description information in there, but for right now, I'll just leave that blank, and I'll create an assignment. So now I've got an assignment that's created for my workers out in the field. This application is very useful in the sense that I can go ahead and sort all of my all my assignments and look based on, unassigned or assigned status. Sort them by due dates, priority levels, and assignees. This really helps me to get a 360 view of what's happening out in the field and plan my operations accordingly. So now let's go ahead and assume the role of my field worker. And you can see the field worker has access to all of the work that they've completed in the past, as well as anything new that's been assigned to them. So now I see I have a surveillance and treatment task that's been assigned to me by my supervisor. I can go ahead and click on this task and see that, oh, I see why it was assigned to me. It's only a tenth of a mile from where I'm currently at right now. And I know that once I get to the location, I'll have all the information I need in order to properly complete my assignment. So I'm going to go ahead here and click Start to kind of cue the staff up back in the office to know that I'm working on this issue. And then I'm going to go ahead here with this integrated suite of applications, and I could do things like navigate to the site, but I'm going to go ahead and collect data directly at the site here. And it's going to open Collector, which is another application integrated into the ArcGIS suite, that allows me to capture all the information of what I'm doing in the field directly on my mobile device, essentially eliminating the need for paper and pencil, which is very nice. So let's go ahead here and click on my site. Well, first let's look at this treatment zone. I haven't seen this information yet, but I know that my manager, kind of relayed everything I need to get my job done here. So first of all, I'm looking at a planned treatment zone of an adulticide of about a 3.4 acre area scheduled for a truck-mounted spraying. And that's good. And then I see the information of the request that came in from the customers. I can see the information. We got some roadside area in front of the house. They want me to sample. I look at this other customer request where there's lots of mosquito bites, so I can see why I'm out here doing a sampling and a treatment. And many organizations, the sampling and treatment may be done by other groups, but for the sake of this demonstration, we'll go ahead and do them both at the same time. I also can look around here and see all the other information that's available that my organization has collected. So it really helps me, make better decisions in the field based on the data that we have. So let's go ahead here and click on this site and start doing recording my field work here. All right, let's see. Let's go ahead and record a new treatment. I could view any existing treatments, but there's none in this area right now. So I'm going to do a 0.4 acre treatment, kind of a road spray on this area. So let's do 4 acres. I'm going to use permethrin. I've got some stuff configured here on different types of chemicals and brands that I can use so that I can kind of track inventory and record what I'm doing in the field. This is completely configurable by your organization. I'm going to do 4 fluid ounce per minute. And then I can record all sorts of other information here. We'll just do the treatment type, which is an adultus sighting, and the treatment method, which is a truck-mounted sprayer. Done. And now I can just go ahead and use my current location. I could snap photos of what's going on in the field and everything else, but let's just go ahead and submit this data in on the treatment that I've done. Actually, that update is sent. But now I want to go ahead while I'm out here. While I was doing the spraying, I found this area here of standing water, and I'm going to go ahead and take a sample. Enter in my sample ID here. We'll use the same naming convention we've been using for 104.16.001. Sample type larvae, because we got some water here. Normally these numbers that you're using for the sample ID are going to be pre-printed on vials or bags or whatever type of sampling method where you're taking your dips and putting them in there. And I've got that information. And again, I can go ahead here and click back on the map if that sample, if I don't record the sample exactly when I take it, I can record the location of where it's at, related to where I did my treatment, and you can take some photos or submit. So now I've gathered all of this information in the field and submitted it back to the office. So I've completed my activities in the field, and I want to notify my supervisor that I'm completed with this. So I go ahead here and hit finish. And now my task list is blank again. And let's go back and assume the role of the supervisor back in the office. So now the supervisor back in the office can see that assignment has been completed and is in a position to go ahead and make any new assignments that are needed. Well, the next step in this workflow is kind of going in there and attaching the rest of the information, related to that process. So we took a sample out here in the field in a particular area. That sample is then, sent off to a different organization where they can go ahead and test it. It may be internal to your organization, it may be a public health lab or another group here. But they can go ahead and search based on the sample ID through the same application. They may not see all the other applications that you've shared out, but this is one where they enter the lab results. So if I click on sample ID here, I can see that when the sample was taken and who it was taken by, and I can go ahead and enter the results. I can also search here for other samples that were taken and see the history and record anything that I need related to that sample. Let's go ahead and enter the sample results here. So if the date that the mosquito was ID'd, the way when the sample results came back, what you found, we found Aedes aegypti here. And in this particular sample, we found a number of different larvae. The virus test date was recorded based on when it was done in the field. And then we could take our results here. It's a presumptive positive, or we'll do a positive for this particular one. And we found some cases, or we found the Zika virus in this particular sample here. So now I can go ahead and submit this information. Now I've went ahead and taken the customer requests, the treatment zones, the sites, the sampling, everything, and recorded it so it's all tied back to location and easily shared at whatever level is appropriate across my organization. Similarly, if I'm working with public health groups that are tracking the outbreak of different viruses among the human population, they can record this information at the 3-digit zip code or whatever other administrative unit of analysis they're interested in, so that can also be shared across an organization. We're more focused on public works side of it right now, so I won't demonstrate that, but it's a similar type of workflow that can be used either internal or external to your organization, depends on who you share with. And so this is important, to kind of, get the rest of that information into the system. But here, I'm going to go ahead and look at a dashboard. It's very important to share this information out internal with your organization so that different executives and managers and supervisors can keep track of the status of what's going on in the field. Here we can see a status dashboard where you can quickly look in and see where you're finding different where all your different requests are coming in, standing water, mosquitoes. You got quick filters here that show you any request that's not been handled in a threshold that you've set. These are any requests that are over 5 days old, so I need to make sure that we respond to those quickly. Here I've got a standard legend that I'm using across all my applications so it's easy to understand what's going on. And I can also see all my staff and how many open assignments each one of them have. It looks like one's getting assigned a lot more than others, so we need to kind of balance the workload here to make sure we can effectively get this stuff done. And here I can see all my open assignments, whether they've been assigned or in progress, and kind of make sure that I'm responding quickly and effectively. Just like all the other tools we've seen, you're able to overlay a lot of different data sets on here, measure inside the map, overlay different layers, and, look at bookmarks. So you can kind of have access to this intelligence rolled up for an executive level view or a manager or whatever level of details needed. That was kind of tracking the status of my field operation and what's going on with my workers, who I can also see here. But I can also go ahead and you can see here, I'm using my enterprise credentials, so there's no need to have an additional login here. I am just using the credentials that I use to access everything else in my organization, which makes this very convenient. So now I've got another dashboard here where I am looking at the results of the surveillance. I can see where I found every type of mosquito across the area that I'm serving. Also click and highlight those locations quickly on a map, which is very nice. I can also see my virus results, where the different vectors are testing positive for vector-borne diseases. And I can look at my total number of cases here of all vector-borne diseases around the entire time that I've been monitoring this. And I can have little widgets here in this dashboard where I'm tracking, Zika cases or West Nile virus, dengue, whatever it is your organization is interested in looking at. You can very effectively and easily configure these widgets on the dashboard to display it. I see the cases across the different jurisdictions. This is a total by the 3-digit zips I'm using to track. Your organization may be using other tools and methods. And then year-to-date summaries of individual diseases. And if I click here anywhere in the map, what I can see is the information across all time that I've collected for that. How many cases have been reported over different reporting schedules and time frames. I can also filter this information to look at things based on, the first and second week of the year, or the reporting cycle. I'm using an epidemiological reporting cycle here. Your organization, I'm sure, has their own reporting frequencies and schedules. And also I can see all the information on those samples and tests and treatments that have been done. So it's a really effective and easy way to roll this information up in a way that people across your organization can view it and understand what's going on. So beyond just sharing this information externally or internally to different aspects of your organization and departments, it's nice to be able to share this information with the public. Many organizations have pages stood up where they link to all the different services, the location of their offices, and so on. So using a tool like a story map, You can go ahead and embed pages like your main organizational page where you have contact number and information and educational material. And then you can link, to partners web pages like the CDC or the World Health Organization or your, local or health authorities to see what kind of educational materials and resources they're providing. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you can kind of, leverage the great work that your partners are doing. You can also go in here and use global services that are available on habitat for different types of mosquitoes and observations, and overlay information on where you're finding particular varieties of mosquitoes to help communicate to the public where there's actually risk, different things to be concerned about. You can also go in here and display the information on your inspection and treatment activities. How quickly are we responding to requests? Where have we done treatments over time? And you can even animate this data. Every organization is going to want to share their information at a different level, and that's completely fine. This is all configurable. In this example, this individual group is sharing information on all their sites, the status of their requests, and where they've done treatments over time. You can see how it's animated here, and then I can just go ahead, expand my animation window and see what's going on. Very, very useful. I can also display the results of my surveillance and monitoring activities, so people can quickly go in and see, heat maps or individual points of where we're finding, both mosquitoes and mosquitoes that are testing positive for virus, and what's being shared out by my public health partners on where we're finding cases of vector-borne disease. And lastly, it's very important, to provide locations where people can drop off samples or find out information on their district or contacts. And, every organization will have some type of resource at their use. If you've already taken all the locations of the services that you're providing in the districts, you can spatially enable those with ArcGIS platform and put out resource locators with driving directions that are incorporating traffic and other things that help people get to the areas that they need to go effectively. Another piece of this where, many proactive organizations want to get out there and, find out what's going on with public sentiment. Maybe they want to monitor social media, see where things are being reported on social media that aren't being reported to their organization. So in this example here, I can go ahead and look and see, with both Flickr, Twitter, and YouTube, and what's being posted out here. In this particular location, I can see that at this airstrip, these people are having trouble even flying because there's so many mosquitoes out in this area. Maybe I need to go back in and check and see what kind of testing I've been doing and sampling in this area, and maybe do a little bit more treatment out there. But it's just nice to be able to see things that people aren't reporting, get out on the platforms that they're using if they're not necessarily coming to your site. Okay, well that was the complete offering. That's the integrated vector-borne disease surveillance and control offering from Esri, but we have a lot of other options, whether it be business partner solutions or our solutions templates here, located in the local government public works section, that provide another set of configurations that are very similar to address this workflow, to be able to engage citizens, conduct operations, and so on. And each one of these templates comes with a lot of information to help you download and deploy these tools on your own using your own staff in your organization. Get some information on the requirements, and then you can also go in here and try it live and be able to see what the configuration looks like. This is another example of a way to kind of communicate internally or externally on what types of variety of mosquitoes are being found, where they're at, and look at it over time. Not necessarily animated, but using charts. So it provides another useful visualization tool. So now, let's go ahead and do a little bit of recap here. So we kind of walked through this complete workflow where we're entering service requests, reviewing them, treatment, dispatching our workers, taking assignments. You can even navigate in the field using some of our tools, collect your data, and communicate out with the public, have your operational views, and monitoring some social media. So this provides a nice set of tools leveraged through location and geography to kind of address this whole operation. So ArcGIS will allow you to transform your operation. It'll be able to take information from your systems of record, whether they be your, your other customer systems where you're submitting requests in or tracking existing cases or surveillance activities, or other types of systems that you're using internally, and integrate that through the ArcGIS platform, leveraging location so that you can view the information that's coming from your lab, from your public health department, from different aspects of your public works or vector control, using your own identity through WebGIS so that you only see what you need to get your job done in a very simple rolled up view. We looked at ArcGIS Online, which is a software as a service based portal that's completely scalable and secure, that allows you to collaborate and share internally and externally and configure and deploy a suite of apps that will enable your operation. It also gives you some self-service mapping and analysis, since all this data is now in there as services and geographically overlaid to plug into other types of analysis and predictions and tools. Got a couple of URLs there where you can explore and get some more information there. We looked at some crowdsourcing tools to report information from the public, from your browser or from your mobile device, as well as enter the information on the lab reports, and even providing tools for your public health partners to enter information on human cases. We also had a public information map that was configured to monitor social media. And then we had a configuration of Web App Builder, which has a lot of different tools and widgets that could be a foundation for building apps that are focused, that are run anywhere on any device, that don't require any coding, and have a set of widgets to allow you to insert driving directions, do bulk editing, overlay different types of data, and really develop an application through configurations that's customized to your exact needs of your organization. We looked at Workforce for ArcGIS, which enables you to coordinate and manage your workforce and employ an agile decision-making method based on all the information that's out there, and get a complete real-time view of your field operations using existing mobile devices, not some separate device that you need to implement in your organization, and it's completely integratable with other apps in the ArcGIS platform. And then we use Collector to collect and update our data in the field, and ground truth information, make sure that's located in the right spot where we're making observations. Replace our paper-based forms and process to be more efficient and automated, and use location as that point to tie everything to. And as you can see, we also able to upload pictures, videos, and other files and tie them directly to the information. We saw some dashboards that were configured to monitor the status and surveillance activities, so we can assess our operations, share different aspects of operation out with people at a scale and level that's appropriate with them. And you have our gauges, our charts, our lists, whatever it is that we need. You can even integrate this with other business systems in real time. And then we use story maps to kind of provide an interactive, rolled up view of all the different public resources that we had available out there to the public and other stakeholders, so that they have one area that they can go to and see what's going on. It's authoritative. It allows you to do narrative, text, and multimedia. And you can configure it in order to look and feel like other public-facing tools that your organization is using. All right. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn this back over to David. Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks, Jared. That was a great presentation on our vector-borne disease surveillance and control solution, very specifically kind of the mechanical side of that gives us, talks about some of those elements of our integrated mosquito management program. So we started off this as the modernization. So what does modernization mean? Well, really, it means transforming your vector control strategy by moving from paper to platform. Many of you, as you fight or have implemented your vector control, might still have a lot of paper processes, and so by using GIS, you can move from a paper to digital environment and really transform your organization. I would suggest it also means adopting an integrated mosquito management program. We covered that earlier in the presentation about the 9 tenets, or these best practices for integrated mosquito management, of which GIS really is the platform in all of those steps. And of course, you can always engage Esri to help configure. your vector control system. That's part of our vector-borne disease solution, is an end-to-end assistance in implementing that offering. And of course, you can discover, use, make, and share vector control maps from any device, anywhere, at any time. Jared showed you how this works in both a web environment as well as a mobile device environment. So I would, we can go into our Q&A session here. If you have any questions, by all means, reach out to Hannah as she opened up this webinar. She's our regional marketing specialist for the Asia Pacific. Kansarina Cardiez, one of our solution engineers dedicated to the Asia Pacific region. Of course, you heard from Jared. He's our Health and Human Services technical specialist. Behind a key ingredient to our vector-borne solution. And then, of course, myself, David Topman. You can always reach out to me with questions at dtopman@esri.com. More on vector management. Of course, you can always go to esri.com. In the industries pages under Public Works, we have a whole tab dedicated to vector management where you can see other customers and case studies and solutions there with respect to vector management. Mentioned the ArcGIS for Public Works Mosquito control modules. You can find those under our local government Public Works Mosquito control pages. And then, of course, highly suggest that you can go to go.esri.com, vector-ready, and see our vector-borne solution and what you get. So with that, Hannah, I'll turn it over to you for questions.